What are you expecting Black voters to want to know from the candidates for president, which the election is just 3 weeks away?
Over time, unfortunately, we've looked at Black voters as a monolith, and Black voters care about more than one thing. Black people and Black voters are as diverse as any other group of voters. So the first is I like to caution about thinking about Black folks as that has been uh, done over the past few decades is we will look at like one or two issues as quote unquote Black issues and neglect so many of the other issues that affect our community. So I think Black voters are a very sophisticated, pragmatic group of voters. So to directly answer your question, I think on the top of all of our lists is we're in the middle of one of the greatest pandemics of humanity, and it is disproportionately affecting the Black community. And I think that's a reflection of the stratified second-class citizenship that so many Black citizens receive in America. So I think it's on the top of that list, though, not speaking and cautioning for speaking for all Black people. I think that we want to know, one, how can we deal with this pandemic better? And two, how do we get rid of the systemic racist conditions in America on a national, state, and local second-class citizenship where the virus affects us in a disproportionate way.
What do you think is the best way the candidates can reach out to Black voters?
I think authenticity is the best thing. I don't think that there is a one way that's best. I would caution those seeking office to be wary of patronizing and token signs of reaching out to the Black community. I think that it insults the intelligence of the Black voter, right? So it's going to take more than hot sauce in your bag to get our votes. So I think the best way to communicate with Black voters is to think about the issues that disproportionately affect us, and to look at the issues that will liberate us collectively as a community, right? So obviously, there's a huge disparity in the way that we're treated within the criminal justice system. But, Black issues should be more than just talking about when we get in trouble, right? They should also be talking about how do we flourish and how do we empower HBCUs and Black institutions and Black businesses and helping them flourish as well. So I think taking a more holistic, genuine approach about the disparities in our community, right, and looking at how do we close those gaps. We don't need any more tokenism in order to get our vote, right? I think it's especially, I can just say from my generation, I think we're kind of tired of the tokenism, right? We want to be taken seriously as voters, and the only way that you show us that you're taking us seriously is to discuss in depth the issues that affect our day-to-day lives seriously.
One might say that Black voters are asking too much when they're really just asking for equal treatment. What is your response to people who may say that Black people are just taking advantage of the fact that they're a voter that's really needed in this election?
Well, I would definitely push back on saying Black voters are asking too much. Black folks are pivotal and influential when it comes to America. Uh, there is no America without Black folks. Never has been, never will be. And so we have built and made America. We define culture still, even in modern day sense, when you look at the global influence of America. And, you know, there's a saying, you know, they want our rhythm, but not our blues. You know, there's so many aspects of Black culture that are uniquely American, and that America does celebrate and should be celebrated. But if you're going to enjoy the rhythm of Black folks, you also have to acknowledge the blues that we experience here in America. And you can't celebrate one and ignore the other, because they are both part of the American experience. And we have failed as a nation to reconcile the great sin, the original sin of this nation, which is the exploitation of Black bodies for free labor. And we still see that stratified treatment and second-class citizenship in far too many areas in this country. And so, you know, I think that we need to, I mean, we are this country, you know, Black people. And we cannot ignore that when it comes to the voting booth and issues that affect Black folks as well. We matter just, at least just as much. And I would even say sometimes, compared, because of the lack of attention that we've received in rectifying the sins of America's past, I would say we even need to divert more attention and more resources towards issues that affect Black folks, so that we can effectively live in a more equal society. Listen, the better Black folks have it in America, the better all Americans have it. And the sooner the majority of this country realizes that, the better off we'll be.
When we talk resources, we also talk about resources at the voting booth. We've seen long lines in Georgia and other states just so people can cast their ballot. What is your message to the people in power to help make sure that Black voters and other minority voters make sure that their vote is counted just as any other should?
My message to the people in power is your politics won't work. I mean, we've seen the historic method of voter suppression try to occur ever since Black folks have received the right to vote. And we continue to overcome, we continue to unite, because I think we realize that the systemic power that exists in that voting booth. And if they're trying so hard to keep us away and to prevent us and to suppress our vote, there must be a good reason for it. And that's probably because we have a lot of collective power and behind it. So my message to the people that are trying to suppress our vote is that it won't work. It won't work. The vote is the great equalizer in America. And, you know, it won't work. And my message to the people that are in line is we are with you. We need you. Finish staying in line. Don't leave. Right? Things are not happening this way on accident. It is deliberately engineered to function in this way. And when someone is trying to silence your voice, the best thing to do isn't to be quiet. The best thing to do is to scream and make sure your voice is heard. So if you have to wait in line all day to do so, do it, because it's that important. And you know, most of us vote only once, maybe twice a year, but rarely. And I'm 36 years old. I have never participated in an election as important as this one. where we're dealing with neo-fascism on the ballot.
When we speak about the messaging that candidates are sending to Black voters, do you think that the candidates need to change their messaging in order to gain the Black vote and gain the trust of Black voters? Because really, it's not just about what you say, but about what you do.
Yeah, you underline a really good point there. So, I really reject the notion of just messaging. I think that there needs to be a greater overhaul with the way that elected officials interact with the Black community, period. The messaging piece is an issue um, because there's a lack of engagement, frankly, between on a national level that exists, in 4-year intervals. So if they were engaging with the Black community as they should, or like they do with maybe some other communities, you wouldn't have this tone deaf approach. The poor messaging is a result of a lack of engagement, right? So when you have that consistent engagement, the messaging isn't an issue, right? Because you've built up that relationship and that rapport with the community. So it's bigger than messaging. It's about an authentic actions that actually help the community, right? That's the thing is there is a legitimate distrust between Black folks and elected officials. And it's because there's been a generational letdown, where there have been policies, frankly, promoted by both parties. Not one a little more than the other. I feel, and I think a lot of folks feel that way. That's why Black folks tend to vote Democratic, right? They've both been harmful, but one more harmful than the other. But there has to be just engagement in a more effective way. While we're on this subject, though, I think I do want to bring up one other thing about Black leadership within the Black community. We have to, so the way that things have functioned in the past, there were no like elected Black leaders. Then there were Black leaders, but they effectively spoke for the entire Black community and became gatekeepers and have led us kind of to where we are right now, where we're like, well, what are the Black issues? Well, Black issues are American issues, and they're issues that we all care about, right? That there's just a disproportional impact on Black people. But I think specifically with Black leadership, we have to do a better job at listening to all Black people, realizing that we're not monolithic, and specifically doing better at listening to those who are most directly affected by the injustices here in society. Right? I think Black leadership has failed, as the development of the Black middle class has arose. We've failed sometimes as Black leaders to address the issues of the poor in the Black community, address the issues of drug addiction in the Black community. And we can do a better job at that by not just being gatekeepers and saying, oh, these 3 issues are Black issues, but speaking to all of the issues collectively. And I hope that answers your question well.
Finally, to the Black voter that may be watching right now, what is your message to them?
You have, to the Black voter right now, I think it's important to make sure your voice is heard. While we're at a very important moment in American history, And while I understand that there are issues with both candidates, one candidate wants to see Black people who are trying to say that our lives matter labeled as terrorists, which is a problem, right? And we cannot allow that level of ignorance to remain in power. And I think that while I think some people have issues with Biden that I completely understand with his past, we can protest Biden and get him to listen. Whereas I think Donald Trump has a problem with listening to the American people, as a very authoritarian way about the way that he governs. And so it's very dangerous, extremely dangerous for the Black community. So listen, we have to make sure that our voice is heard, that we get fascism out of the White House, but also that we pay attention to what we can vote for locally. We have an opportunity to put Lucas County's first Black sheriff in office, a sheriff that actually pays attention and is rooted in the Black community with Julian Mack. We have an opportunity to keep some very problematic people out of office. And so I think it's very important that we do so, and that after the election, continue to stay engaged, listen to us, and behave like they want and got our vote.
Activist Julian Mack, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jaden.